Hey guys, I wanted to invite you to join me for a live stream I'm doing Friday, May 8th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on youtube.com/christiangeekcentral, where I will be sharing my picks for favorite bang-for-your-buck games that give you a lot of playtime, a lot of fun, for a relatively small amount of money. So I hope you'll come and join me, hang out, and have some fun. Hope to see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye. christiangeekcentral.com. Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here to continue celebrating with you UN-E3 2020. This time, going to give my reactions to the Inside Xbox Presents First Look Xbox Series X gameplay video. Or live event or whatever it was. This was about 20 to 30 minutes of trailers, followed by deeper dives into a few games. I thought that the trailers, there's a lot of cool stuff to look at, and so if you like trailers, they pack a bunch of them into the first, 20, 30 minutes, interspersed with just brief bits of talking here and there. There were many cool-looking games, but there were also many that had no release dates, and that I also just needed to know a lot more about to figure out, okay, is this going to be the kind of game that I'm going to be interested in? So I'm just going to share a few things that really especially stood out to me in this presentation. Also, I'm not an Xbox person. I've been a PlayStation 4 person for the PS4 and had issues with the Xbox 360, but I'm really looking and waiting and watching to see if Xbox can entice me back. I'm very open to that at this point. So I watched this with great interest. The first thing that really stood out was the first game that they showed, and it was a trailer for Bright Memory Infinite, like a gameplay trailer. This one's coming out for Xbox Series X, PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. I didn't see a listing on the website for the game if it's coming out for PlayStation 5. I would guess that it would be. Anyway, it's hard to find some details on this. The Steam page for Bright Memory Infinite has a description that reads, Bright Memory Infinite is an all-new lightning-fast fusion of the FPS and action genres created by FYQD Studio. Combine a wide variety of skills and abilities to unleash dazzling combo attacks. Now, when I first saw this trailer, I thought, oh my gosh, is this going to be Singularity 2? Because there was something about the UI, maybe some of the color choices in the UI, which is all kind of an in-world, heads-up display for the player, seeing like bullet counts on the actual guns themselves. There was just like, and also the energy lasso thing in the left hand. I was like, oh, is he going to do some time stuff? There was some slow motion stuff going on. It's not Singularity 2, obviously. But I was getting some vibes from it, and has that Bioshocky kind of vibe where it's a shooter, but it's all about also about using some gadgets that can manipulate your enemies in unusual ways. And also really striking was the hurricane that was going on in the environment that the player was moving through, and so just like a really striking visual aesthetic to this whole trailer. And not only that, speaking of striking aesthetics, in the middle of this sci-fi looking shooter was a knight, which made me think time travel. Again, brought my mind to Singularity, but I guess not, whatever. And then there's vehicle combat in there too, which made me think, is this an open world or something? What the heck is this game? I looked at some more trailers for it, and it doesn't seem to be open world. It seems to be emphasizing, yes, freedom of approach to various combat situations, but still based intermittently, at least, on some really big set-piece kinds of moments, which is hard to do in an open world. Not only that, this game is reportedly created from the ground up by a single individual, a representative from Xbox said. And so the fact that there's no UI elements yet in this trailer and no release date means that I am merely interested, and very interested, in seeing more about this game, but for all we know, this thing is still in kind of a pipe dream phase, especially if it's just one guy working on it. I mean, my hat goes off to him for all that he's accomplished, just to be able to, even if it was a completely fake trailer for a non-existent game, that's pretty cool for one person to do. But, the fact that, this is likely an actual game that's really going to come out is really impressive. But that scenario of a one-man development team for a game that looks like this says to me, don't hold your breath, hater. It's coming to... Oh, wait, no, I don't know if it said it was coming to Smart Delivery, but Smart Delivery was the next thing they talked about. And that's the feature that Xbox has been trumpeting lately, where if the publisher opts in to this feature on the Xbox Series X and Xbox One, you can buy the game for Xbox One and then get it for free, basically, on Xbox Series X as well. What was interesting to me about them mentioning it this time is the developer talking about it said, quote, "It's also awesome to see the partner support for Smart Delivery, ensuring that fans only have to purchase the game once to enjoy it on whichever Xbox system they own or will own in the future," unquote. Now, maybe those were just sloppy words, but for a presentation like this, even though they're not standing on a big glossy stage, I have to believe they really scripted this presentation, you know, even though it looks very grassroots because everybody's on their webcams at home, you know. So notice that wording, to enjoy it on whichever Xbox system they own or will own in the future. That is not merely talking about the one that they own now and the Xbox Series X, but whichever Xbox system they own. So have they inadvertently or actually committed themselves just now through the Smart Delivery system to future-proofing all games, basically? For as long as Xbox systems are a thing, then they will, you know, provide versions of games that you buy now that will be compatible on future. Basically, they're committing to be GOG, you know, who continues to make really old games playable on new operating systems on PCs, even as those operating systems update and change. Are they really committing themselves to that kind of future? My jaded heart says that was just, he was speaking way too broadly there. They're really just talking about the next generation of Xbox consoles, which is going to be, sounds like, more than one, you know, especially with a name like Series X. But anyway, that was a pretty interesting wording there. The question that also came to mind, which I don't think I've heard addressed anywhere, and please correct me and provide a link if I'm mistaken about this, but I don't think there's been talk yet about game saves. So the question I have is, if I buy a game on Xbox One and play it for 30 hours, but it's a 60-hour game, then I get an Xbox Series X console, can I not only play the game on my Series X console, but also bring my save over so I can just continue playing it on the new console? That is something that I have not heard about yet, so if you know something, I would love to hear about it. Next thing that jumped out to me was Scorn, aka H.R. Giger, the game. And that's because the visual design, I mean, it says on the website, inspired by. I was looking at this visual design, I was like, this had to have been created by H.R. Giger, who's famous for creating the visual designs for the Alien franchise. In particular, the first movie, I think maybe, well, at least the following movies were based on his designs, but I think he didn't come back and actually do original design work again until the third one. Anyway, blah, 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 it's a different topic. But I looked at this, I was like, this is Giger as all get out! And it's coming to Xbox Game Pass, which I think is really interesting. I looked at the website, and it didn't have a listing saying that it was going to be coming to PlayStation 5. Now, maybe that's just because PlayStation 5 isn't really talking about itself much, if at all, yet. And so partners, developers, stuff like that, third-party developers aren't, associating their games with it yet. But I would think if this was actually an exclusive console or exclusive game for Xbox consoles, that they would have trumpeted that, but they didn't. So I have to think it is almost certainly coming to PlayStation's console as well. On the Scorn website, it says, Scorn is an atmospheric first-person horror adventure game set in a nightmarish universe of odd forms and somber tapestry. I've heard that description a number of times because it's been an ad on some podcasts that I've listened to for the last 2 years. I think 2 years ago was the first time I heard that description. We still didn't see any gameplay, just lots of atmospheric CG stuff. So, I mean, for all I know, this is not a game. It's just kind of like this CG created art show, you know. So I'm interested, but there's no date. This is not even close to anything that looks like gameplay, so I'm not optimistic. It's just a blip on my radar. Next up is Chorus, which on the chorusthegame.com website, The description reads, take control of Nara, once the Circle's deadliest warrior, now their most wanted fugitive, on a quest to destroy the dark cult that created her. No. On the quest, no, period. All right. Unlock devastating weapons and mind-bending abilities in a true evolution of the space combat shooter. Along with Forsaken, her sentient starfighter, explore ancient temples, engage in exhilarating zero-G combat, and venture beyond our waking reality. Description goes on to say, lead Nara, an ace pilot facing her haunted past, and Forsaken, her sentient ship, on a quest for redemption across the galaxy. So, interesting theme there. Enter a dark new universe teeming with mystery that balances the scale and spectacle of exploration with fast-paced action. Well, I love big worlds to explore, so that has my interest as well. And then finally they say, attain unique weapons, unlock deadly abilities, chain powers together to become the ultimate living weapon. Still very little that can be discerned about the gameplay here, even with what they show in the trailer. It's coming to current and next-gen consoles and PC in 2021. That's interesting that in 2021 it'll still be coming to current gen consoles, but I want lots more info about the gameplay, but I am mildly interested as much as I can be from what has been revealed. Next up, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This is coming to PC and consoles in 2020. Now this one I think has been delayed at least once, maybe twice, but I still was interested in seeing it again despite some of that stuttering in its rollout. It's a sequel to what I guess you'd describe as a cult hit. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines came out, I want to say late 90s, I'm not sure, but it had kind of a rough release, I think, because of some buggy stuff, but with patches and stuff, really developed a passionate following, and so there's definitely a passionate fan base that's looking forward to this game. I'm interested in it just because it looks like a first-person RPG, heavily choice-driven, where you can really choose how you want to play not only your combat situations, but how you want to navigate your place in the world. There's a lot of political navigations as you make your place in this underground society of vampires. It's based, of course, on the Vampire the Masquerade paper and pencil role-playing game. So, I'm very interested, but I want to know a lot more about the RPG systems in particular before I say that this is definitely one that I plan on picking up. Next up was The Medium. I don't have a lot to say about this one. It's coming holiday 2020 and is going to be part of Xbox Game Pass. What was striking to me, first off, just the supernatural theme of mediums, and how today, someone who is a medium can be a hero in a game, and that's these kind of like more occultic type things or new age type things and stuff are just much more embraced. That's just kind of the relativistic pop spiritual soup culture that we live in right now. What was striking to me, though, is that she seems to be, I think, a Christian medium. At least they're saying that kind of thing is possible. She seems to be praying in one or two brief scenes in a church that in its interior definitely has a Catholic vibe to it, and then when they show an exterior shot, which I believe is meant to be the same building, there's very clearly a cross on the top of the building before it gets dissolved by the wiping away into the spirit world and stuff like that. So just kind of like the combination of those elements I find interesting. As far as gameplay goes, as long as it's not like a survival horror experience, but it's more about story and choice and maybe some light puzzle solving and just kind of exploring this world and stuff, then I might be down for that kind of gameplay. But still a lot more that I want to know before it releases again in holiday 2020. And then finally, Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay. I would put that word in quotes. That's what they were saying was coming for this presentation. It was introduced as gameplay debut for this game. It was described as gameplay in the text on the screen. I should mention before I forget, it's coming to smart. It's going to have smart delivery, but it didn't look like gameplay at all. I'm going to put, if you're watching the video version of this, instead of the Christian Geek Central podcast version, I'm going to put a little box in the corner somewhere that shows this thing, maybe on a loop or something. You tell me if you spot some gameplay in there somewhere. And after that trailer showed, the PR guy from Xbox talking to a PR guy, well, actually maybe a creative developer or something like that, from Ubisoft, the Xbox PR guy said, with like a really like this is supposed to be a rhetorical question, he really hyped up moment. He says, "Did I just see new Assassin's Creed gameplay for the first time?" And I would be asking the question more like, did I just see new Assassin's Creed gameplay for the first time? And the developer replied, yeah, absolutely, that was directly from the game. I'm thinking to myself, wow, what did I miss? I looked at that footage multiple times, and if I'm really trying to be on their side on this one, I could say that maybe one or two moments in there were QuickTime gameplay moments that they just haven't. They're just not showing us the button presses that are. I really hope there's no QuickTime crap in the next Assassin's Creed game, but that's the most I can think of because the camera is not behaving at all like a player would typically use the camera. These moments, what they look like is in-engine footage. You know, I don't know that. Do people really describe watching a cinematic as playing the game? Maybe, I don't know. But this is like really stretching the definition of gameplay a ton. And it actually just looked like another cinematic trailer, you know. So if you see some gameplay in there, leave me a time marker on the YouTube video that you're watching now, and let me know where you think it is. I'd be interested in knowing. Aside from that, we learned nothing new from this about this game compared to what they've already revealed, you know. And so this really was a reminder to me to not get hyped. Not get hyped about these kinds of reveals. Maybe especially for Ubisoft, given the way that they kind of communicate, but I don't know. I mean, usually I think when they've said gameplay, they actually show us something that definitely looks a lot more like gameplay. But I'm thinking to myself, you know, if devs and publishers can intentionally or otherwise misrepresent truth in ways as obvious as this, then I think we should consider all the other less obvious misrepresentations of truth that we are likely being given all the time, you know. Now, maybe this is a big misunderstanding and the camera is just behaving in radically different ways and they aren't showing the user interface elements yet. Those are possibilities. But, I mean, all kinds of things are possible. I'm trying to go off of what is most likely true. And I would be shocked to find out that this was actually gameplay, that this is footage of what a player will control at any point in this game. Now, I love playing a lot of Ubisoft games, but upholding truth, both in their game worlds and here in their PR work, just doesn't seem to be a priority for them. So, yeah, that's my reaction to that anyway. And that's all for now. Stay tuned throughout May, June, and at this point, as I'm looking at what kinds of things are popping up on the radar and in the schedule coming up, probably even July, as I bring more reactions to what I'm calling UN-E3 2020. Meanwhile, I'd love to hear what you think of what we have been shown so far in the comments below. And then, of course, I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
Burn, ungodly filth! What?